When I was 7 years old, a single movie changed my life forever. But it wasn't just entertainment, it was a revelation that shaped my passion for cinema. You might have your own story, but let me take you back to 1993 when Jurassic Park sparked something in me that I bet you felt too, maybe in a way you've never realised. There's also something about this iconic film that I've seen no one ever talk about, and it's been hiding in plain sight all these years, but we'll get to that later. So many people my age likely had a similar experience when they went to the cinema in the summer of 1993, 31 years ago. You can half see the poster behind me in all of my videos. I've had that poster since I was 7. It's been blue tacked to the wall of every bedroom I've ever lived in. I think of what happened on the day I saw Jurassic Park as one of those rare defining moments in my life. It planted an idea, like Inception for me, an idea which is rather abstract. It made films and the art of cinema suddenly real, because although 7-year-old Dan thought what he was seeing was real, deep down I knew it wasn't. This was the first time I began to wonder, how did they do that? And I began to discover what filmmaking was. It didn't lead me to become a filmmaker, but it definitely led me to study it and fall madly in love with this most incredible way to tell stories. I'm making this video as a fledgling YouTube film critic to not only pour my heart out about this film, but also show you what are the kinds of films that excite me. It's all well and good just putting out reviews, but if I don't share with you films from the past that brought me here, then who the hell am I to be recommending or criticising films for you? Before seeing Jurassic Park, my understanding of films was so abstract in my mind's eye, I didn't know what they were as such. I loved animation like Thunderbirds, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and films like Neverending Story, Willow, and most recently, Hook. These were the kind of adventures I'd been exposed to, but they didn't leave that indelible mark. I do remember going to see Hook in '91 in a grand old theatre cinema, but way up on a balcony looking down on a screen far away, so it didn't have an awe-inspiring impact. My memories of watching the Jurassic Park ad on TV at home made the young naive Dan think this was some kind of an attraction, a real thing.
It happened at a place called Jurassic Park this summer.
I must have pestered my parents to death about this thing I'd seen called Jurassic Park, thinking it was something like Disneyland. Then I got taken to see it. I could show you exactly where I sat if I was taken back to that cinema, which probably no longer exists. I can't even remember the town we were in, but I remember the screen and the foyer where they had a poster up for Point of No Return starring Bridget Fonda. Of all the posters they will have had up, that's the one I remember. The viewing I had was so memorable as the screen loomed over the audience like this great monolith. So to a 7-year-old, this thing felt so big, which it probably wasn't. The lights went down and those now all too familiar tones for the opener of Jurassic Park thundered on screen. That opener is killer. Like, the laugh is this is a PG, but right out the gate it's got all the tension and drama of a horror movie. So 7-year-old Dan was immediately pushed right back in his seat and terrified of whatever was in that cage. To this day though, I do not know what the hell Muldoon shouts here.
Work her back!
From that point on, I just remember being totally enthralled, hanging on every word that my 7-year-old mind could comprehend.
That makes the investors very, very anxious. I had a promise to conduct a very thorough on-site inspection.
Totally incomprehensible to me at the time. The scene with this kid is setup and payoff 101 in my book. The first time you watch Alan Grant's Explainer, you wouldn't expect this moment to be lining up 2 key moments further on. It's a tee up for an amazing payoff when Muldoon gets hunted down. The words of Alan in this moment haunted my imagination of Muldoon's guts being spilled onto the floor and him being eaten alive. Those words earlier in the film from Alan did enough to make this feel real later on. It also obviously cues up the "he can't see us if we don't move" moment with the T-Rex.
You keep still because you think that maybe his visual acuity is based on movement, like T-Rex, and he'll lose you if you don't move.
It's funny remembering the things that I didn't comprehend as a kid. When Alan and Ellie celebrate at the end of the scene meeting John Hammond, I thought they were excited about going on an adventure for some reason, not, rather boringly, that by going they secure their dig funding for the next 3 years. It's stuff like that as a 7-year-old went over my head. What was Ian Malcolm's job? Was he a literal rock star? Why is there a lawyer here? Jurassic Park not only introduced me to the understanding of what a film was, but also to actors. Like, Richard Attenborough is just so perfectly cast. This film started my lifelong admiration for many of the actors here, especially Jeff Goldblum. Jurassic Park also owes a good chunk of its success to its soundtrack. That magic of John Williams, coupled with the absolutely jaw-dropping visuals of dinosaurs, just sends chills down my spine every time. That shot of the first living dinosaur, the Brachiosaurus, still makes me tingle all over. To see this today, it still looks impressive. So 7-year-old Dan genuinely thought this was it. This was real. In a time when blockbuster fantasies up to that point had totally been about clever puppetry, claymation, forced perspective, and art set extensions, all of which still made for great movies, there hadn't been a moment of true reality in fantasy for me at that age. It's been well documented, but this shot still looks the absolute business 31 years on. So to me, as a 7-year-old, it was just instantly like, dinosaurs are real, and how did they do this, and when do I get to see a real dinosaur? A really silly thought now, but right up to the Christmas of 1993, I still thought Santa Claus was real. In fact, it was upon discovering one of my Jurassic Park presents hidden under a bed that I cottoned on. 1993 was a big formative year for young Dan. What ensues after that first T-Rex scene is an hour of the most brilliant, tense action and horror you could hope for from a PG-rated film, and chock full of philosophical questions, lessons about life, power, hubris, science and technology, with not a second wasted in this crazy world of John Hammond and his grand flea circus. Once the raptors came into play, it scared the absolute shit out of me. They were the ultimate threat, and I genuinely was in fear of the thought of something like that really existing. I came out of that screening feeling like I'd witnessed the greatest thing ever, even if I hadn't comprehended all the life lessons it had built in. From then on, I must have driven everyone around me crazy. I ran around acting like a raptor and a T-Rex, or shouting, "Shoot her! Shoot her!" My birthday and Christmas that year were Jurassic Park and dinosaur mad. I got and still have the toys, bed sheets, and Mega Drive game, as well as the sticker book, annual, the VHS, and keenly, the making of book, which I only noticed on my rewatch whilst writing this is subtly placed in the movie during the scene I alluded to earlier. Have you ever noticed that? Let me know in the comments. This book showed me what making a movie meant. It peeled back the curtain in an age where YouTube and DVD extras weren't around. Reading about storyboards, production, special effects, this moulded my young mind into understanding what a film really was. Since I was 7 years old, when I've thought of cinema and the experience of going to the movies, I often recall seeing Jurassic Park for the first time. Every film I saw from then on would be marked against it, and thus I do think at such a young age my love, study and criticism for film was born. Jurassic Park is perfect. It was when I was 7 and still is every time I watch it now. It firmly opened the floodgates where my parents, especially my dad, could see I was so engaged with live action adventure and fantasy films that I got taken, or maybe I pestered, to see the likes of Star Trek Generations and First Contact, Apollo 13, one of my all-time favourites, Batman Forever, Independence Day, and many, many more. Until amazingly by 1997, at the age of 11, I hadn't seen and was taken by my dad to Skipton's still now operating Plaza Cinema to see the special edition of Star Wars A New Hope, and another film lit a spark in young Dan's mind. If you've watched to this point, thank you so much for coming on this rather self-indulgent ride through a childhood memory in Jurassic Park. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe and say hello in the comments with a film that lit a spark for you. You could also consider watching this video next, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. That magic of John Williams coupled with the absolutely jaw-dropping visuals? What are visuals?